I'm Liz Larson.
And I'm Bill McKenna.
And together, we created the Cogno Movement System. And we'd like to welcome you to the New Life Perspectives radio show,
where we're going to be sharing with you tools, tips, and ideas that are going to change your life.
Hello, hello. This is Liz Larson with the New Life Perspectives radio show here on the UK Health Radio. Hi, everybody in UK Health Radio land. I'm so excited today because we have our first return guest. It is Cynthia Sue Larson. Now, I know you guys have wanted to hear from her again. It's one of our most popular shows. So I reached out and thank goodness she said yes. Hi, Cynthia.
Hi, Liz. Glad to be talking with you. Doing great.
It's wonderful to get a chance to talk to you as well. So for those of you who don't know Cynthia, and I know a lot of you do, she is the author of, well, the three most popular books are Quantum Jumps, fantastic. I cut my teeth on that one. Reality Shifts, for me, that one too, high on the list. And High Energy Money. Amazing if you're wanting to manifest anything, but money especially. So you are also, are you the president of the International Mandela Effect Conference? Is that correct?
That's correct. That's a 501c3 nonprofit organization. Basically, we set it up to be educational and be doing conferences. And then, of course, timing is a little bit wonky, but that's okay. We're doing things on the internet. So every month we do a YouTube live stream on our channel, International Mandela Effect Conference.
Oh, great. Yeah, guys, check that out. Super, super interesting subject. I had the great privilege of talking to Cynthia about a few things before we came on today about Mandela Effect. So interesting. And I want you guys to know that Cynthia doesn't just write about things that may fall into the realm of woo-woo. Cynthia's actually a physicist, right?
Right. Yeah, I studied at UC Berkeley and got my undergraduate degree there, and then continued working with the Foundations of Mind, where I'm a director, and I've been helping to coordinate some conferences and some of the books and publication of papers, and I've co-authored a paper with physicist George Weissman about there may be no such thing as objective reality. So now that's becoming a more of a mainstream topic, but when we wrote that article, it was not. So it's been having fun with physics and consciousness.
There may be no such thing as objective reality. Wow. I mean, that's a mind blower, right? I mean, it is for me anyway.
Yeah, because we tend to assume it's one of those unspoken assumptions. We just think that there's this set of facts and they don't change, and that's just the way it is, that therefore we can agree collectively on one history. But there are some physicists that will agree with me and that have actually publicly stated that quantum physics denies a single history.
That's fascinating. You know, in our work, Bill McKenna and I with Cogno Movement, we see that every day, that perspective is really through the eyes of the beholder. And a memory that one person has is so corrupted with all the things that happen every time that memory runs again in the nervous system, that the reality of it is almost never what the person thinks it is. But also it's only the reality from their perspective, where they were standing, their brain development, their gender, their education at that time, their religious belief or worldview. So that makes perfect sense to me, that there really isn't any one reality. There can't be, because each of us experiences it in a different way.
Exactly. Even the passage of time is moving differently for us in different places due to like altitude. That's a well-known fact. This is not woo-woo stuff at all. Yeah, it's this is one of those things where if you're at the top of a mountain, time is moving at a different pace than at sea level. And we're all familiar with the thought experiments that Einstein had, where he imagined he was traveling, like riding along on a photon somehow. And then time does different things there. So that was how this idea of relativity was born. But we hear these things and we don't really mesh them into our daily lives. We think, well, we can ignore that. It's not something that really matters. And so we don't see what's right in front of us, which is kind of fascinating that this objectivity assumption is so huge. But quantum physics has really blown it apart some time ago. And now we've got some experimental evidence to back that up more recently. And I think we did talk about that last time a little bit. I try to remember the experiments in collaboration between the university in Vienna, Austria with Edinburgh, Scotland. So fascinating work.
It's so cool that there's actually scientific experiments going on about this, because some of us have experienced this, our whole lives, and some of us have learned how to do it. With Bill and I mean, we can tell you stories for hours about it, on purpose bending time. Most of it has to do with being late.
Right.
And arranging to arrive on time.
Right. This is one of the most popular, most commonly experienced reality shifts that I've heard of right at the beginning when I first started the website in the 1990s. That was one of the most commonly reported reality shifts, where people, some really weird ones, where people would get into a meditative state of mind and they'd be driving a route that they know should have been like a 5-hour drive, but they would somehow get there in 2 hours.
Yeah.
And they did not break the speed limit, and they were just like, what happened? So
Yeah.
that stuff happens a lot. It's almost like they were just traveling along and then they jumped to a new location. And when they thought about it, it seemed like part of the drive was truncated.
Yeah.
Like they started and then they finished, and then where's the middle? And they don't know.
Well, and what most people don't know is you can do it on purpose as well, which we have done many times, mostly because we're late. But, I think that what is so amazing about what you're saying is that, well, I guess it's this. If we could all understand this concept, and if it took science to prove it, that there really is no objective reality and there is no one truth of it, that it is a matter of perspective and where you are in the world and time and age and all of those things. If we could let go of the idea that I'm right,
right,
and you're wrong.
Yes, that'd be brilliant.
Wow, right?
I know, revolutionary concept right there. I would love that. It's so much better to be kind than right, and we know that when it's happening, when an unkindness happens to us, and someone's saying that it has to be that way because that's the correct thing to do, that's the right thing to do. But is it really? So exactly.
Well, in our work, client after client, when they get the opportunity to see the other perspective or just to let go of their own,
right,
9 times out of 10, they are shocked at how, well, I guess wrong or misguided, or how much they misunderstood what really happened in the moment. And they think another person did something to them because they're mean or hateful, and then they realize, oh my gosh, no, that person was going through something, or that person was only 3 years old, or any number of things. When that reality shifts, and that's really what happens when their perspective is collapsed, their reality shifts entirely and their life shifts. So if we all knew for sure that was the truth, it would change everything.
I agree. This is exactly what I've been fascinated with this last week. Power of observation. It's critical.
Okay, so I have a question about that.
Okay.
So since you are the guru of the quantum jump and the reality shift, so here's my question, Cynthia. If we all really noticed and looked for and paid attention to when reality seems to shift, would it happen more?
Yes, I think the short answer is basically yes. There's always a proviso, as long as you're not blocking it completely by, it's not going to shift. I'm looking at it all the time and I'm absolutely denying it. Okay, well, for that person, they might actually succeed and not witnessing anything at all. But for the rest of us who are open-minded and just focusing our attention in that direction, yes, you can see more of it for sure.
So talk to us about that a little bit. How would that how would that be true? Is there physics behind it? What's the idea? Why would it be that if we notice it more, if we observe more, would it be that it is actually already happening more and now we're just noticing? Or is there something about being the power of the observer? And I know there's science behind that.
Yeah, basically the observer, there's something called an observer effect, which is such that the very presence of an observer does make a difference in quantum experiments, such as the double slit experiment. And I think we did talk about that last time. So when we look at that kind of an experiment and recognize, okay, so we know the observer matters. We know what the observational perspective is, the position, whether there's a presence of an observer and what it's looking at, that all matters. So if we know that to be true, and it is true, then absolutely it'll make a difference. But then when you're asking for this whole topic of a quantum jump, can we observe that? Now it's getting really interesting, because quantum jumps have a specific meaning in quantum physics, where it's basically jumping from one level of energy to another, right? So if you think about the energy involved to go from one position of most people studied orbits of electrons, I think. It's a familiar topic. So that's what I'm discussing. And that's actually visible to the naked eye. You can see an electron jump from one level to another in certain circumstances, certain environments where it can show up like a flash of light, which is visible. So that is a quantum jump. You can also expect to observe it. These are the kind of things that get into the research that's conducted at institutes like Institute of Noetic Science, run by Dean Radin, and he's the chief scientist there. They do some amazing work just looking at how people, ordinary everyday people, can participate in experiments that are happening and conducted online to actually prove that they can affect this. And we've also done some support work through International Mandela Effect Conference with our first conference, where we were running, we actually presented some work and did a consciousness experiment throughout that conference as well, showing people can influence reality with these little kind of random number generated things that you should not have any effect on, but you can, and we do. And you can practice doing that just by changing your state of consciousness.
So what's really interesting to me about that, what I was thinking as you were saying that, is you're talking about the observer having an effect on matter, correct?
Well, it can affect, you're asking about quantum jumping. So yes, it's that involves a large swath of things. Quantum jumps are interesting because it's a change. That's not something that's studied that much in physics. So we're sort of walking, we've got feet in both worlds. We got one foot in the physics where we're saying, this is what they narrowly describe a quantum jump to be. And then in the realm of consciousness, where you and I are experiencing it all the time, we both work with clients all the time. We see real world effects all the time on that real, an individual full body experience for a person. That's not physics per se. That's gotten into this realm of the quantum jumps that I write about in my book. So it's kind of, I want to be clear on the verbiage, like what are we talking about? So in the realm of physics, yeah, what you pay attention to, you can absolutely influence. We know that. And then there's something called a quantum Zeno effect in the realm of physics, where when you really lock in and observe something and keep observing, it's like being OCD.
Yeah.
You keep checking, then you're going to lock that system in a state. It's like a quantum lock. It's like, I'm going to check it so often it can't move. And that's actually a quantum lock concept, quantum Zeno effect, where you're just checking it so frequently that it doesn't have a chance to open up or leave or move into another state of being. So that's the physics, the pure physics side.
Yeah. Okay. So that's kind of exciting because in those scientific experiments, and I'm obviously no scientist and I don't play one on TV, the person viewing has the ability by viewing to create that lock, or the ability to change from a particle to a wave, correct? In the double slit experiment, that's what happened. They changed from a wave to a particle to a wave.
Oh, well, in that experiment, a viewer based on where they choose and how they choose to observe the experiment, can influence the result that is seen. So if they, as soon as they have one piece of information, such as which slit did the photon go through, if they know which slit it went through, then they're going to suddenly see everything as if it's just, like little, like paintball, like splats of light hitting the screen. But if they don't know that, then even if only one photon goes through at a time, the net result is that they'll end up with sort of a diffraction pattern going across. And that's the power of the observer there. So it influences whether the wave is seen. So with one piece of information, this is what I meant by plausible deniability. I think I mentioned that before the show today. Love that concept of bringing plausible deniability into quantum physics, because I think it's really prevalent here in the realm of quantum physics, because as soon as you know one thing, it's like you don't really know something else. And so that's what makes it so fascinating about this role of the observer. So even though we may think, oh, I've got control on this, it's very elusive control, because never do we actually know everything about a quantum system. The quantum nature itself seems to say, no, you can't do that. And that's okay. You can't do that.
It's kind of exciting. So for my non-scientific mind, that it's the information that changes the outcome. So are you saying that one bit of information about one thing excludes another possibility? So I'm expecting this to happen, so it does, but because I now have that information, then I'm excluding another possibility, possibly.
It's kind of like if you know one thing about a person, then you don't know something else. Like you can know like a quantum particle, you can know its position, but you don't know its spin, kind of a thing. So it's like you can get some information, but not all of it. It's like that little bit of plausible deniability. It's kind of like, and the way I relate to it in my everyday life is when I go to a cupboard and I know that I want a certain spice or a seasoning, and I know it should be there, but it's not. So, and I also see it's not there. But that doesn't stop me, because it's kind of like plausible deniability. So what I'll do is I'll shut the cupboard, walk away, do nothing except walk around the house, which might be full of, these quantum portals and so forth. Come back, open the cupboard, and it's still not there. Shut it again, walk around, open it again. I could do that a few times, and I've done this, and then on the fourth time or so, there it is, the very thing I was looking for that wasn't there before, right in front, right where it wasn't all those other previous times. So these kind of things can happen if you're open to them. If you're expecting and focused on, I want to see these quantum jumps, I want to see these reality shifts, you can do that through the intention and the focus. Earlier, when you said you could lock a system in with quantum Zeno effect, maybe, but that would take like a Jedi master focus. You'd have to be pretty much like a monk who's just been meditating in silence, just to be able to lock in that degree of focus on one system. Most of us get bored.
Get bored. Well, and then there's people who, do it by accident. What you're talking about, going back and looking again and again, I've done that most of my life, just because I was relatively certain that I knew it was there, but probably I just wasn't looking hard enough.
Right.
And in my mind, I thought it was there, but so I will go back and look as 5, 6 times, because I just expect the thing to be there, and eventually it is. But yes. I think I was creating that. Now I know I was creating that effect, but totally unconsciously. Just I expected it to be there, so eventually it was. Or I've had the exact opposite. I expect it not to be there. I think I told the story last time about losing the key to the bike.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
I just knew that thing was going to be gone, and sure enough, it was gone very unexplainably.
Right.
Both ways. But as you were talking about the being able to change things through the observer or not, it made me think about, do you remember the experiment in the book Messages in Water, where the monks stood all around the small lake to try to purify it and just focused on purifying? Do you remember that?
It sounds familiar. Yeah, I remember something like that.
Well, the end of the story is that they did, testing the water before and testing the water after. So a real change physically on water through the expectation of it being changed. So we really do have the ability
And that was, they did a similar experiment at Institute of Noetic Sciences, which did also indicate it was with intentional chocolate experiment. I was a participant. I did not know whether I got the intentional chocolate that had been prayed on and meditated on with monks or not, except, you know, I'm an energy intuitive. So when I got my chocolate, I thought, oh my gosh, I know this has definitely been, you know, it's got tons of energy, much more than regular chocolate. And so part of their experiment was, how do you feel? They would, you just take a tiny bit of chocolate each day for 3 or 4 days, forget the details, but, and then I would each day document my mood. It was a very interesting thing to be part of the experiment. But what's even more interesting is, well, number one, yes, that was the chocolate I thought it was. And they asked me that question, do you think you got the intentional chocolate? And I think I said, yes. I think I did, but that's not the point. The point is it made a huge difference in people's mood to eat the chocolate that had been meditated by the monks versus the chocolate that had not. So they were kind of replicating the monks with the water, but doing it with chocolate. That was a lot of fun to participate in.
I never heard of that before. That's super interesting. Intentional chocolate.
Yes, so you can look it up. They wrote a paper. I'm sure Dean Radin was one of the scientists working on it. Fabulous fun.
Yeah, but well, you know, it makes me think of like, what if a mom could do intentional chocolate for her child for school for, you know, their brain working great that day or really good behavior, something like that, right? Focus
Yes.
and attention.
We can all do this for all of our water that we drink, all of our food that we eat. And, you know, you can really make a difference in the energy of it and how you feel. You can do it for yourself and for your loved ones. Yes.
Yeah, I bet. So, Cynthia, everybody loves a good story. And last time we talked to you, you had said to Bill and I that within that week, you had experienced so many quantum shifts, more than you had in an extended period. So, you have any fun stories you want to share with us about recent quantum shifts?
Yeah, I seem to just have more and more all the time. This last month, I experienced seeing more of the pitch perfect movies than actually exist. What I know, it's crazy. I'd seen the first one. I thought I'd seen the second one. It turns out that I had seen the third one, but the one that I remember was the second one. If you remember the movies with Anna Kendrick, and she's one of the Bellas at the Barden Bellas at a college. And so the first one starts with her as a freshman at the university, just joining the group, and she's just singing a cappella. Okay, so I remember that one, and I did see that one. The movie that's currently missing, the fourth movie, is the mystery movie somehow between sophomore, junior year of the Barden Bellas. And it was just a totally different experience. It's like that happened, but now the second one is their senior year, completely skips their entire middle part of their journey, and it's just now they're graduating. So the first one, they're just arriving. The second one, they're graduating. Really? And it's like, what happened here? So it's very bizarre. That was one, and then I experienced several others as well. Just in the last month, that I just have a deluge of them. I've got a kitchen floor that cleans itself occasionally, and that happened again. So, you know, that these kind of things.
That one.
I know, right? So that's pretty off the chart. And then another strange one is I do some genealogical research sometimes for family members. And so there was a family member who had a DNA cousin match, and I was just looking into that to see if I could help figure out where they might be related with their family tree. When you do a third cousin, then you're going to great grandparents. So it's a lot of research, and it takes a while. So I just started the process. But here's the weird part. I remembered, wait a minute, I've done some of this research before, but now everything's different. The family's different. So there's nothing I can show to prove that all that research I'd done is different. But it was looking at a family where previously it was a very difficult situation, and the mother had had several relationships, I think like 3 or 4 marriages, different children. It was chaotic to try to follow all of that. And now it's different. Now it's just been one marriage, same city in Florida. So some of the names are the same. The current living relative is the same, but now it's like I'm seeing a whole different possible reality where they had a whole different life. And that would be a weird thing to tell. I mean, that's not something where I'll just be reaching out to someone and saying, do you feel like you almost had a completely different life. It's just too weird because I don't know that person, but that was really interesting. And it's interesting for several reasons, because people write to me constantly and ask, well, they'll be afraid. They'll say, I'm afraid of quantum jumping. What does that mean in terms of my family? Do they jump with me? Or am I just the only one who's going? That question, you probably heard that one too, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, I don't know what you say, but do you have a standard answer?
Well, not really a standard answer. We can only share, what our experience is. And I share what mine is, that when I, intentionally make a jump, make a shift in my own reality,
Right.
in our work, you clear out everything that is resistant to that. You were talking about a person, like they could resist it if the creating money, if they have a big block.
Mm-hmm.
So in our work, we clear that out of the nervous system, out of the physical body, out of the electromagnetic body. And so when I make that jump, it's clear with the most joy and the most excitement. And we do a little timeline travel before, and we really take a look around to make sure everybody's joyful in that experience, and then choose it or don't.
Right.
And so we know that in every jump that we make, it's just a new timeline that everyone's in. And lots of things are different and lots of things are exactly the same. So, of course you can't guarantee anything, but we try at least to do it with the most joyful and the clearest energy.
Right.
To make that shift. I don't know. What do you say?
Yes, it's such an interesting question, and it depends on the situation, because there's some people want to bring a dead loved one back, and so that's a very specific, bizarre scenario. Not bizarre, but happens a lot apparently, where people feel like that was just a mistake that was made. I want to go back in time. We can do this, right? And then I need to explain you can, but it requires a level of detachment that is pretty epic. It's doable, but you're going to want to start doing these quantum jumps on smaller things first, and then work your way up to something that you can then accept and believe, like that can happen. But my standard response to this general question of who are these people? Like, I made a quantum jump, and people might have different personalities. Yes, they might. It's possible. But you can know that it's your consciousness that makes the jump. I think that's the key concept, where people sometimes when you work with people, they already know they are their consciousness. But a lot of people have trouble with that key concept right there. And they tend to identify with their physical body without recognizing, no, this is just of the moment in this reality. Every day you wake up might be a totally different you, actually. It's quite conceivably true. And that's true of everybody. Yeah.
Wow. That you really bring up a good point. It's so interesting what changes. And if you make the tiniest jump, doesn't everything change a little bit with it? Your intention, everything could be different, and people act differently. And so in our work, we see it all the time, where one person will have a relationship problem.
Yes.
And maybe they work on it or maybe they don't. And remember, we're changing electromagnetically in the body, the nervous system.
Yes.
So that pattern that creates a field is then collapsed, changed. The perspective is changed. So the person experiences, oh, wow, that's not even what I thought happened. Or, now they have compassion. They see the whole thing differently, correct? So instantly they'll get a call from that person,
right?
Maybe who's thousands of miles away.
Right.
And that person will say, oh, hey, just wanted to apologize to you, even though that was never a possibility ever in the realm of all things possible before.
Yes.
Or an estranged loved one. In Bill's case, he had a situation where a person who had been estranged, 30 years or something, called and invited everyone to Thanksgiving. Like instantly these things happen. So even though those are not really intentional quantum jumps, the energy of that being is changed in the moment. And so everything around them changes in that moment.
Yes.
Too. I know it sounds crazy, but
no, it doesn't sound. I've experienced the same thing with clients where I've given them the disclosure, the disclaimer right up front, like, okay, brace yourself, because what we're about to do, probably there's going to be an instant effect. And I've heard people say, oh, no, no, no. And then just like this gasp of, oh, and I'm like, what? It's like, the doorbell just rang. Oh, I'm looking out the window. It's him. And I'm like, I did tell you about this, but he never comes here. Yeah, but we talked about this.
Yeah.
Like, and it's mind blowing, and it just happens every single time. So it's not even an if. It's like, okay, I need to give you this. Okay, just what we're about to do is going to happen real time. The whole world is going to be influenced. Yeah, so this is not make believe stuff. This is quite real.
No, it's real. I mean, if you want to do it, you better be prepared. In our work, we started to notice it by accident because we weren't actually in the business of trying to quantum jump. We realized it was a side effect when person after person after person was having these instant manifestations.
Yes.
Okay, something else is going on here.
Yes.
Well, what's even more surprising for us, so we work in the nervous system, but we work on things that what we call it a stack. So it would be things that are all related to each other. So maybe I was telling you a story about something that happened to someone in the womb, and then it affected their life through many, many, many different situations now, 50 years later. So we often would work on something else, something in that stack of emotional, physical issues that happened to that person.
Right.
And as a side effect, this relationship changed instantly, or money came into their bank account, or some other ridiculously incredible thing happens instantaneously to them. So we know that when you change one thing completely and energetically in the body, that it's possible for everything to change. And so now we understand that as there's not another way to explain it except for a quantum jump or a reality shift or a timeline jump.
Yes. It really is the part of that mind, body, spirit connection. That junction is what they call it in my martial art Kuk Sool Won. There are these big pictures of junction. Junction, because it's that idea of spirit being the main thing, and it's just your mindset. The way it all comes together needs to be of one piece, and often there can be some level of inner disharmony, which I think is what you guys are noticing as you go through that stack and noticing, like, okay, here's a little stuck area, and then you clear it, and like whoosh, all this energy flows through. That's what it feels like to me.
That's exactly it.
Yeah. And then when that energy flows, it's like it's all free, and you don't have that long-standing block in the nervous system that may have been there. And sometimes there can just be that blockage in the polyvagal nervous system or something, where things just get kind of jammed up tight, kind of like it needs a massage. Get in there.
Well, the way we see it is that the nervous system is constantly trying to protect us. It turns on fight or flight and uses up an amount of our energy. But it runs these patterns between the body and the mind, creating an energy field, like a vortex. I mean, it's round and round and round and round. I mean, that's what energy does when it goes round and round and round and round on power lines, is it creates a field. So we can change that field. And not that we can, that field is just changed automatically when we change the energy within the body. So, I mean, that's the experience we have. And I think if there was one thing I would want anyone to walk away with about this, is that it's physical.
Yes.
It's physical. We say metaphysical, which puts it in the realm of woo-woo, but we've seen it be physical. So we had a person, Bill and I worked with a client together in San Diego, who actually gained a half an inch in height. Now, that was one of the things she said she wanted, and it was a joke. And when she said it, I thought, oh, that's no joke. That's actually possible.
Right.
When you release that, and you said that rush of energy.
Yes.
I mean, that rush of energy released things in her spine, and she was a half an inch taller at the end. So it's very physical.
Yeah, from the quantum physics perspective, it could be that idea that all these possible realities already are out there. And so it's just when you get that energy level, then you're in that reality where you are half an inch taller, or have all that money that you always needed but didn't think you could ever access. There it is. And with money, I often find it's just always been there. And I think we mentioned that last time. It's just like, it's crazy. It's like, how did this always be there when I've done forensic accounting and I'm checking and like, yep, it's always been there. Cool.
Wow. Yeah. So it's interesting. So we were talking about originally that there may not be any objective reality. And
Right.
what you focus on, this is the big thing in law of attraction, expands. And if you focus on something enough, that it's either going to be there or not be there or locked or so we were talking about the idea of quantum jumping. If we start to be aware, wait a minute, that just shifted. Wait a minute, that just shifted. Could we actually build our quantum jumping muscles and shift more easily? I mean, talk to us about that.
Yeah, that does seem to be what's happening on a global scale and collectively. So when we do this individually, then it's quantum jumping. When you do it as a group, then it goes into this Mandela effect, which is starting off like the lost socks and missing keys of reality shifts, where it's just like, what the heck? Why did that logo change? Or why is the movie dialogue different? If you build it, he will come versus they will come. And, I thought it was very strange. The things that change are like, what the heck is going on here?
Yeah.
And it can seem surprising, but that's just like when a toddler or a newborn starts noticing I moved, like this moved. And then it takes a while to notice that's me moving my hand. This is my hand. And so collectively, obviously, what we're doing is learning to move everything. And sometimes it's showing up in different ways. We're having physiological changes and anatomical changes on a global scale. I'm bringing up the Mandela effect because it's huge. And this is the playground that we're starting to play in collectively. So hopefully we can play nicely and respectfully and really stay kind and compassionate and not be focused on who's right and who's wrong. I think that's going to be these are key success factors going forward. But yes, we can also play with it in our personal lives as well. And that's where we can start noticing, okay, I want more reality shifts. I want to experience them. And what would that be like? And I just got an email today from a woman in Canada who had always been telling everyone the paint color she used in her home. I forget exactly which color of green it was, but it was kind of, I think, lime fusion or something kind of jazzy like that. And she told people like, oh, it's lime fusion. So she went to the paint store to go pick up a new bucket of lime fusion to do touch up. And they said, I'm sorry, ma'am, there's no lime fusion. But don't worry, we've got a whole history of every paint that we've ever had. We'll look it up and no, there's no lime fusion. And she'd been hoping to see more reality shifts. There you go. So she was thrilled. Even though she had to like, okay, this is going to be a little more challenging. I'll have to show you what paint color I have at home, which works too, but it's not quite as easy as already knowing exactly what it is, which she knew. She did not forget. It was kind of a memorable color. And so that was interesting. But these are the kind of things, once you focus on it, okay, I want to experience more of these, then you can have something happen. Like, I think I may have mentioned last time that the curtain on one of the windows on my door just grew, and it was silk curtains that had shrunk in the wash decades earlier. No? Well, that one happened a couple months ago, and I'd mistakenly used hot water, I guess, when I washed the silk curtains, and then my fix on it was to just reinstall the curtain rod a little bit lower, so now there was a gap at the top of the window, which was kind of annoying. And this year it was getting more and more annoying to the point that I thought this is just unworkable. But I had washed them just fine and put them back on. And it was like a week or maybe 2 weeks later, and they were fully dry. I didn't hang them up wet. And then suddenly one day I was annoyed because the curtains were drooping at the bottom by like an inch and a half, which is exactly how much they had originally shrunk 20 years earlier. And I'd washed them several times. So I thought, wow, that is amazing.
Wow.
But anything can change. Literally anything can. And I like to ask, how good can it get, to keep it fun and surprising and kind of that participatory feeling that maybe the level that I think is best, maybe there's an even better level. I like to go up as high as possible.
Okay, so that's really, really interesting. So earlier you were talking about a person who maybe wanted, someone to come back who had died. And you said, okay, you're going to have a level of detachment. So I was thinking about that as you were talking, and wouldn't that be a little bit true about everything? That to really get great at quantum jumping, you sort of have to let go of attachment to your current reality.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's for optimal results, just to let it go.
Okay. So every week on this show, so I'm going to totally put you on the spot here, just fair warning. We always give away a little bit of a tool. Do you have a tool or even just an idea that would help a person kind of be less attached to this reality? Because I think for most people, the question would be, well, it is what it is. How do I let go of it?
Yeah. Well, remember when we said quantum, yes, I can share something with you. And the idea is going to be, it'll be a tool and an idea. The idea is that we are consciousness. It gets back to that same question that the person was asking about the dead loved ones, and also just being able to make that jump. Like, how can you do that? And it does. So the way that quantum jumping works in the first place is it's not your body that's going, it's your consciousness that's going. So you are experiencing this whole new reality because who you are. In other words, this whole thing is like a holodeck. It's like one big, huge, lucid dream, a waking dream, lucid living. Everything around is kind of imaginary. And when you recognize that, like, is that really possible? Could I be awake in this dream? Is this a dream? That idea, just that idea right there, can, if you focus on it well enough till it really kind of rattles you to your core, like, and you feel like, that's crazy. Like, what if that's true? And you let that really echo inside you and feel like, okay, what does that mean? It doesn't mean that things aren't real. Things matter. It's just that what it seems to be, there's much more to it than what it seems to be. I guess that's what I'm saying. So the idea that I'd like to share would be, how about recognizing that there are levels of yourself, just as you might notice that there's a heart, and your heart thinks, what your heart wants, what your heart loves. Sometimes we don't trust that. We want to trust just our head. Well, what we're going to do now is trust something even higher than our head, and just imagine. And people can close their eyes if they want, just for a couple minutes here. Just this be like a 2-minute meditation here. Just to close your eyes, take some deep breaths, and just imagine. Well, first let's relax a little bit. Just breathing to your lower abdomen, just slowing your breathing down, finding that natural rhythm. And then just noticing that you do have kind of awareness of yourself in a body. And you know that's who you are. But what if this whole thing is like a dream? What if there's a higher level of you? Just really like a consciousness above your body. Kind of an angelic presence and an angelic awareness. Who knows always what's best for you in every situation. It may not be what you think is best, because this level of your consciousness knows everything, knows all the possibilities, knows everything about you and all your possible futures and pasts. So there's a level of you that's the angelic quality that first came into this body when you were born. With this personality, this wonderful adventure of this life that you're on right now, knowing that you have a very special purpose in this life, that you've got special gifts, which are probably having a lot to do with the very unique way that you see people, the unique way that you observe everything, which is totally and uniquely yours. Nobody else is anything like you. This angelic level of yourself knows that. And you're now choosing to be aligned with this level of yourself, choosing that this will be the part of you. When you ask how good can it get, this part of you is helping to guide everything that happens in your life and around you. And you'll now find it much easier, effortlessly, to succeed in all sorts of things, to feel much more attuned to a part of you that's above the drama, above the feelings of frustration, anxiety, and grief that sometimes happen in daily life. Because this level of you operates outside of time, through all space, through all time. When you're ready, just return attention back to your breathing, coming back into your body now. You'll still have this connection to your high self. Still remember at some level that this is still your choice. That you're remembering that you have this unique power of observation. When you're ready, you can open your eyes. just a fun one.
That was fantastic. Thank you so much for that. I know everybody's going to enjoy that. And if you use that, guys, everybody out there, please write to us and let us know what happens. What's the effect? So, Cynthia, we've used up all of our time. I can't believe it.
Oh
It's
my
so
gosh.
much fun talking to you.
I love talking with you. I love your experiences. I love your questions. I love your playful spirit.
Oh, thank you so much. Me too. Back at you. It's so much fun. These are such amazing topics. And I encourage you guys to take these conversations and talk to other people about them. What would it be like if you let go of your objective reality? Right? What would that be like if what I always say is true or not true, real or not real, in the realm of all things possible? What's possible? Right? And Cynthia says, how can it get better than this?
Yeah, that's what I'd ask people. How good can it get? And you can ask people that too. You can ask yourself and you can ask others, how good can it get in any situation?
Yeah.
I mean, try to say it calm and stay, out of the drama, clearly. But
well, so generally, we're holding on so tight to what's wrong.
I know.
But I like your question. How good can it get? So if you acknowledge this is good, it's okay, I'm not dead. So
right.
How can it get better than this?
Yes.
Or in the realm of all things possible, what else is possible?
Yes.
Try it on, everyone. See what happens. In the meanwhile, if you have not read one of Cynthia's books, please go out and get those. Are they available on Amazon?
Yes, they're on Amazon. And also you can see them on my website, realityshifters.com. So, but Amazon's easy. Yeah.
Lots on realityshifters.com.
Cynthia newsletters there too.
Yeah, has a YouTube channel as well. Lots of information there. There's always the International Mandela Effect Conference site as well. Tons of information. So find out more about Cynthia because she's fascinating and it'll blow your mind what is possible for you. So for now, thank you again, Cynthia.
Thank you so much.
Again soon. And again, guys, I'm Liz Larson with New Life Perspectives radio show. Normally, Bill McKenna, the other half of the Cogno Movement team, is here with me. But today I have been with Cynthia Sue Larson. We'll see everybody again next week. Be well, guys. See you soon. Thanks for being here with us on the New Life Perspective radio show. For more information or to find out more about the work that Bill and I do, please visit us at cognomovement.com or email us at info@cognomovement.com. See you again soon.